Okay, um, I'm going to give a brief explanation about the whole project and about all the classes. So this is my first class, which is the die class. It takes two private fields. One of them is an int, and the other one is from the random class. So the most important thing about this class is this method here, the roll method. What it does is that it generates a random number from 1 to 6, which is important for the players when they roll the die. It basically gives them a random number, so then they can proceed and play on the game. So moving on to the tiles class. In my tiles class, once again, I've declared two private fields, an int and a string. The int is taking the tile position, and the string is the name of the player. Also, the constructor of my tiles class takes an input string, which I'll use it for the name of the player later on in the game. And I have these modifier methods for the tiles class. And this method, I created this, and there's something to note here that I've, I've used an input. I've used a die object as an input in here, as you can see here, and I took I called the roll method from the die class and stored it into this new variable, and then took this one and then stored it into the tile position, so that each time a player rolls the die, then when its turn comes back again, his position gets saved. So and as he keeps moving, his position keeps getting stored over there. So I'll be going to my third class, which is the board game class. Here I basically made the big one, the big aspect of the game, which is the ladders and the snakes, or the ladders and the chutes. It takes two private fields, two 2D array fields. I assigned them here. That each of these fields, there are 6 arrays that holds 2 places. And as you can see, I've built these ladders and the snakes. The way I build them is that I've just randomly give them these numbers. So the whole idea is that if the player at 0, suppose the player lands on the position tile number 7. When that happens, then the player's position will be set to 29, and vice versa. The same thing happens when in the get snake method, but the only difference is that the snakes at 0, is a large number. When the player lands on one of the large numbers, for instance 631, 62, 79, then their position is set to a lower number. That's the only difference. And to do that, I used these 2 other methods to test ladders and to test snakes. As you can see, if the position of the player is at ladders at I at 0, then set the player's position to be at ladders I and at 1. The same thing for the snakes, almost the same logic procedure. So moving on, I'll be going to my main application class. In here, I've declared the board game object, and I called the 2 methods using the variable here, start game. I've also declared the die object, and I've called the tile array object. I've created a tile array object and made 4 players, naming them randomly, just different names here. And then I've made a Boolean variable. I made a string variable to later on declare the winner. This is to just maintain the state of the game. So I've used a nested loop here, and the whole thing, basically pretty much the whole logic of the game is being played in here, where if the winner is equal to like a empty string, then you follow all these procedures, like do this. Basically, the player I dot rolling, which was a method in the tiles class, and it takes the input, the dice variable here, which is once again the variable for the die object we called. and then we use the test test letter and the test makes on the player, and then we print out this message. And then here I try to add a data validation, because I made the next statement that if the player's position is greater than or equal to 100, then declare the winner. But since I wasn't able to do this, like I wasn't able to, that was the one rule that I removed. So now, suppose if the player is around position 95 or 97 or 98, and if they randomly get a number from the die class, a random number, let's just say it's 6, so then it exceeds the 100, but then that will be declared, that player will be declared the winner. So that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna compile this, and before I run this, I want to mention something, that the game is like running automatically. I wasn't able to make it user interactive, so I'm gonna run this. And as you can see, so Ali's role is 2. Now Ali's position is a 2, and all these players, for the first time, when they roll the die, their position is the same. But then when Ali's role is 1, then the position increments to 3, so it stores the position. As I keep moving along, and you can see that here, this player's position lands on the 26th tile, and she's climbing. So from 26, she lands on the 58th tile. This is basically what happens if the player lands on the ladder, and if the player, okay, so unfortunately no player landed on the snake, but anyways, that's the logic. If supposedly if a player lands on the snake, it would show a message that this player in particular is at position this and is being swallowed by the snake, and now its position is this now, like a number that's much lower than that. So now now as you can see that the Sadie's position is at 101 tile, and she's declared to be the winner. So I just hope that my explanation is clear enough to give a deeper insight. I'm gonna stop recording now.